For every bird, there is this last migration. Obviously, we are talking about The Death of the Bird by A.D. Hope. I have discussed the poem in my class already, but there were requests from our very dear Diffu campus. Some student asked me for some conceptual clarifications on this. So in a way, this is my tribute to our indispensable and very important Diffu campus, but I think it will be a recapitulation for our students too. This is an Australian poem, but it's so universal in its scope. I know universality has been a suspect for quite some time now, but let us leave that apart for the time being. The poem in its scope is very universal. So that's why the very first line, for every bird there is this last migration. Apparently, the poem is a talk about migratory birds. Birds coming generally from northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere or vice versa. I mean, these geographical details are not neatly followed because birds are not students of geography, and geography comes later. So, India, though technically it is in the northern hemisphere, but many birds come from even other parts of the north for certain purposes here. Our Jatinga in Assam is very famous. Anyway, this is at one level. So, poems generally are symbolic. The better a poem is, the more symbolic it will be. They do not, state things directly. Better poems, or even if they state things directly, there are hidden meanings. So, I would argue, I would contend that the bird here is a metaphor for all of us because this last migration relates to death, and death is an inevitable reality for all human beings. At least till now, whoever was born, you know, have been dying, or possibly will die, though we don't want anyone to die. Recently, the powerful chief of the powerful country has said that the COVID thing has created an unprecedented situation where people who never died before are also dying. But he seems to have made a very important statement without understanding it. Anyway, let us come back to the poem. So, I think I have made my point clear actually that it is not only about the bird, a physical bird or actual bird, but all beings, in fact, all human beings. And if I go a little beyond this, the bird has been a symbol of human soul, human life, or even divinity across cultures. We can talk about, you know, God the Holy Ghost, which was often painted in medieval and post medieval European paintings in the form of a dove. We have in Indian tradition, especially Hindu traditions and other associated traditions, a swan as the symbol of the great Brahman, and at certain point of time, individual also. In the tantras, sometimes the jivatma is also referred to as Hamsa. Anyway, Hamsa. This swan is a potent, recurrent symbol with Yeats. Again, crow can be a symbol of so many things. Ted Hughes, the modern poet. In Indian tradition, crow is generally related to deities like Saturn, Yam, etc. Anyway, so it's nothing new that Alec Derwent Hope is creating, Eddie Hope. It has been there, but then he gives it so many new meanings. So, migratory bird, not only bird, migratory bird. Aren't we all migratory birds in a certain sense of the term? We have come to a place. We don't know where we have come from, and we don't know where we'll go after death. So, migratory bird can be a symbol of human life itself. Though some humans are directly migratory, now migration is a huge, huge problem all over the world. We have had the fiasco in India. I mean, so many problems recently related to this fact. But at an extended level, all human beings are certain kind of migrants, aren't they? So, or exile. Anyway, so for every bird, there is this last migration. At one point of time, the migration will have to stop. Then we'll migrate to another world. So birds also physically they keep migrating from one part of the world to another for a certain number of years. How many years does a bird live? 5, 7, 10. So like that. So migratory birds too. So one journey will be the final journey, and the poem is elaborating on that metaphor. Our Jatinga, I have already referred to, is also very famous for so-called bird suicide. But I was told by one of our teachers, very intelligent person in college days, Cotton College, birds do not commit suicide. Generally, suicide is absolutely human perversion. You know, they think they are attracted by flames that local people keep burning there, and they get burnt. They get hit by sticks and all at times, or they get partially burned by the fire and then they fall and they die. Anyway, it's open to debate. But birds, migratory birds coming and dying in huge number is not a new thing to us also. But what is new here is that we can read the poem, as I've said, as a kind of comment on human life itself. So we'll just have a look at some important lines. Uh, Year after year, a speck on the map divided by a whole hemisphere summons her to come. So, in the map, there are two hemispheres, northern and southern. Generally, migration takes place of birds between the hemispheres. Though, as I have said, it is not always very meticulously followed. Now, poetry is not geography. We have to understand the broader patterns. But by and large, it is between two hemispheres. Why do they come? Usually for food. Generally, they come from colder climates during warmer days. During cold days for warmer stations, so they leave those cold places and come to the Arctic areas or warm areas like that. But from our point of view, since birds come here, we are saying that it comes here. But you may look at it from other point of view also, that this may be their station where they stay, and the other parts there they go. Which one is home? So, where is our home is a very important question in post colonialism and all sorts of isms today. Do we actually have a home? You know, uh, Homes are changing, diaspora, migration. So many things are intricately woven in this very small poem. If you just, you know, try a little and read these things into the poem. You can read many things into many poems, but here it directly lends itself to such issues and interpretations. So, year after year, a speck on the map divided by a whole hemisphere. So, speck, a place will be just a spot on the map. Even a huge place say like Jatinga, where birds come from far away places. So, that keeps calling the bird that the space, that place, the memory of the place. Season after season, sure and safely guided. Going away, she is also coming home. So it's their natural instinct. We don't know how they come from so far away places, and they do not miss unless they die on the way, and they go back safely. So it is their instinct nature has given them. Here at every level, the parallel between bird and human may not be uh, valid, but it's there. This instinct birds have. Going away, she is also coming home. So, which one is her home? Actually, both are homes. So, if it is going away from one home's point of view, from the other home's point of view, it is homecoming. If you remember, Shadow Lines is Amitabh Ghosh's Shadow Lines is interestingly divided into two sections with similar titles. And being home memory becomes a passion. Whichever home you take, this home or that home, there will be memory of the other home, the other part. So anyway, this is a very important part of our existence, human existence. We actually do not know whether birds have memory of that place, or they are thinking about those but we humans have. If we go to cities, leaving our native places, or from cities to play other continents, countries, generally we nurture the fond memories of our original place, and vice versa. When we come back again, momentary or for a long time, anyway, so it is a kind of in between living. The diasporic person, or multinational person, if we may use the term. So these days many people, they belong to different nations, not just one country. So the diasporic community, the migrant community, in a way, these are all becoming uh, very important. So in one such migrations, this particular bird that is talking about, it finally lost its instinct. It has become old. All birds become old, and even as it was flying to its destination across the desert, it lost itself in the vastness of the sky. And you know it was trying hard to rise above the wind. Try as she will, the reckless world delivers no way. It will happen with all of us, though we don't want it. At one point of time, we'll have to live our lives. It's the beauty of life. Otherwise, if you just imagine, I'm not trying to make you sad, if everything from dinosaurs were alive today, would it have been possible for us to be there? But anyway, momentarily, death causes unhappiness for us, especially of near and dear ones. So anyway, so at one point of time, we will have to surrender. Life at every moment now is a fight. It is not only economic fight; it is fight against all kinds of odds, viruses now, infections, different kinds of stupidities. That also have to fight with. As Einstein said, two things are infinite. One is the first is the universe, and second is human stupidity. And then he said that I'm not sure about the first one. That is, the universe may be finite, but human stupidity is infinite. But we take pride on our wisdom. We are very wise, I think. Even as I'm saying this right now, there is a feeling that, well, I have made a point. I know a little more than others do. These kinds of things may make ourselves happy, or put down people who are around us, but they cannot help us escape death. None can. Unless there is an order from the master of the universe, if there is one, that from tomorrow none shall die, so death is inevitable. So finally, the bird also has to surrender. Uh, Try as she will, the trackless world delivers no way. The world has its tracks, but when her senses are going, shutting down, like computer shutting down, so she cannot find her way through the sky to fly towards the destination. The wilderness, no light, no sign. The immense and complex map of hills and rivers mocks her small wisdom with its vast design. It's just the point that I have made. It is not only about bird. The universe is so vast. Forget universe, even the earth is so vast that individually we are nobody. A speck of dust, not even a speck of dust in front of the earth, let alone the universe. So we feel we are in power and everything, but one day things will go. So she is also trying, but then the universe or the earth mocks her wisdom, uh, that you cannot, bypass me, you have to surrender finally. So Ozymandias at Egypt, I'm reminded of right now, or elegy written in a country churchyard. So paths of glory lead but to the grave. Now, and darkness rises from the eastern valleys, and the winds buffet her with their hungry breath, and the great earth buffet her with, sorry, this slide will avoid the last part. And the great earth, which neither grief nor malice, receives the tiny burden of her death. So the earth, she dries and falls, and as if the earth receives the burden of her death. What is the burden of death of a bird father? It's nothing. Thousands and lakhs of animals are living and dying on it. So, by this, the poet is trying to point at the indifference of the universe to our individual existences, not only birds but all of us. We think from an anthropocentric point of view, that the universe is made for man, earth is made for man, there is a great designer who is looking after everything that we do. I also personally believe, because I have been brought up in the tradition, so god or gods, goddesses, deities who are monitoring everything, uh, from our internal marks to jobs, etc., etc., we believe. But actually, from practical point of view, the universe is just indifferent to us. So it is neither against us, you know nor in favor of us. So without grief or malice, I'm reminded of another poem, in memory of W.B. Yeats. So these beautiful lines by Auden. Earth receive an honored guest. W.B. Yeats is set to rest. Let the Irish vessel lie, emptied of its poetry. Similarly, the earth, receives the bird, but the bird is nobody, unlike Yeats. And in fact, in the eyes of the universe, Yeats is also not Yeats. These are all human impositions, human imaginations. So the poem, is a very powerful metaphor for the journey. It's a metaphor, or rather, of the journey of life that all of us undertake, and the meaninglessness, the final meaninglessness of all our endeavors before the vast, indifferent again design of the universe, and uh, you know ephemerality of our existence. Also remember, there could be a pun on the poet himself. I mean, it could be about himself. B-I-R-D, bird. It may also, pronunciation wise, be a pun on B-A-R-D, bard. That is, the bird means the poet, an archaic word. So the death of the bird, it is an anticipation and approximation of possibly his death also. So that is why, the death of the bird is a very beautiful poem. So its themes are, life and death, our place in the universe. It's actually a very neutral and very marginal space or place. And then, uh, life as journey or migration, etc., etc. I think you can bring more things. It is higher education, not school teaching. I have brought some meanings to the poem. I'm sure if you follow these lines and do a little more study and hard work, you can bring a lot more meaning. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. All the best.